Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here, I'll be doing a review and demonstration on the DeVilbiss Pri Pro Lite. This gun is available in quite a few different setups, and as you can see at the bottom of the screen there, we've got 1.4, 1.6, 1.8, 2mm and 2.5mm setups. I decided to go for the 1.8mm setup, and I would imagine that's probably what I would be recommending to most people in the more automotive refinishing industry. 2mm would be the other setup that I would possibly recommend to people in the automotive refinish industry. That would more be if you're using thicker primers, or if you really need to just hose that primer on because those panel beaters just can't get those repairs right. We all know about that one, don't we? Anyway, having a bit more of a look at the gun there, as you can see, it's got a very nice color to it, a nice gray. It's got that anodized finish to it, so I guess it's probably handy in a shop where you've got multiple guns. That primer gun's really going to stand out because it's a different color than the rest of your guns, so you can just run straight up to it. You don't have to look through all your guns because they're all the same color. You can go, yep, that's my light gray gun, that's going to be my primer gun. As you can see there, Spray Guns Direct did actually send this gun out for me too, and they were nice enough to send out a new DeVilbiss regulator with it too, which I'll be doing a separate review and demonstration on air regulators. They were nice enough to send out DeVilbiss, SATA, Iwata, ANI and Sealy air regulators for me, and I've got a sneaky feeling which I know which one's going to win, but you'll just have to wait for that one. That's coming up soon. I want to put those regulators through their paces first. I want to see how they're going to hold up to the thinners, so to a daily clean with a bit of thinners splashed on them, and see how they're faring after a couple of weeks, because I think that an important part of every review is longevity and how long they're actually going to last for you. So that's sort of going to be a pretty important part of the regulator review. But as far as the design goes, I know I've got a winner. So obviously this spray gun here is brand new. As you can see, I've just unboxed it right in front of you. I've only actually used this gun once, and that was yesterday after work. I told the apprentices, you guys aren't allowed to do the prime ups. I'm going to be doing the putty ups tonight myself because I was so excited to use this new primer gun, and I was not let down at all. As far as longevity on this gun goes though, I can just about guarantee you that it's going to last just as long as any of my other Pro Lights, which the oldest Pro Light I've got is 2.5 years old, and it hasn't missed a beat, and it's been definitely put through its paces. It's been used every single day. I haven't had to replace one seal or anything at all. Now, anybody that does a review and says that price doesn't come into it has too much money. So the price of this spray gun is a factor in giving this an extremely good review, especially at the moment, being that the British pound is right down, probably partly to do with that whole Brexit thing. Us from outside of Britain can really take advantage of the low British pound and get some cheap spray guns. I'd like to say a quick thanks there to Frank from North California, from State of Jefferson Firearms Training. He made that mug for me. He hydro dipped it, he clear coated it, polished it, and it looks totally amazing, and I use it every day, mate. Cheers. Anyway, back on with the review. So this gun is available for $317 Australian at current exchange rates. Because the pound is so far down, you can get them at a really good price. So over here in Australia, you're looking at, for like one of the competitive guns, if you wanted to get like Air Gunzer AZ3, you're still paying over $200 for one of them. You might pay a little bit more on shipping as well. And the Air Gunzer is actually a good primer gun. I do rate it. However, it does have a bit of a smaller fan, so if you're doing larger panels like bonnets or hoods, what you may call in America, this is probably a better primer gun. Well, it is. It's definitely a better primer gun. The next step down from an Air Gunzer would be one of those absolute pieces of garbage, $50 to $100 cheap Star spray guns, or there's loads of them on the market. Now, it's a big step up from one of them to an AZ3, but I actually believe that it's just as big of a step up from an AZ3 to this Pri Pro Lite, and yeah, for the extra $100, I would recommend it. Look, if you're an apprentice, I may not recommend it. You might find it hard to come up with the money or to justify spending that money on a primer gun, but there are other options out there like the ANI F150. You guys will probably be pretty familiar with it, and I've used it in a 1.3 and 1.4 in many of my other videos. I do rate that quite highly. That gun comes in quite a lot of different setups. Now, again, it's probably, I'd rate it around the level of the AZ3, but yeah, so an apprentice, my apprentice, the Sudanese guy I work with, I actually just got him one through Spray Guns Direct, ANI F150 and a 1.7, and he loves it. You know, I think it cost him maybe $150 or something like that. So it's good to have an apprentice that owns his own primer gun, because you can guarantee it's going to get looked after. You know, when you've got the shotgun that the boss has bought, apprentices don't really care, especially on the hot days. You've got to be careful with that primer, because it does have a tendency to dry quite quickly, and the apprentices are in a hurry to go home. They don't care. They're not going to clean it properly, and next thing you know, they just don't work. So yes, a tradesman, I would highly recommend getting this gun, because you're more likely to take care of it. And as I say, I reckon this gun will last me my entire career. I doubt I will ever need to own another primer gun in the rest of my life. There's a good chance I will be getting another primer gun in the future, but that's probably mainly going to be for the purpose of doing reviews, because I know you guys just love watching my reviews, and you like to keep up to date with the latest technology and guns without actually having to go out and buy them. If I turn around and say, hey, that gun's crap, you know, you're not going to get it. But if I turn around and say, hey, this is a good option, you know, well then, yeah, I know that people listen to what I have to say and they trust my opinion. So I'm always conscious of that. Like, the last thing I want to do is go and point you guys in the wrong direction. And wherever possible, I'll always help out. I can't always get back to every single comment. There is only one of me, and I do get quite a lot of views and comments every day. But yeah, I really do like making these videos, and I absolutely love this gun. So I'll give you a quick run through the settings that I'm using on it. I just wind that fluid right out. You might have noticed that. Just for an average everyday primer, no need to wind it in. Fan right out. I started off with 2 bar. Now you saw me spray on the plastic masking on the side of that 4-wheel drive there, and it had a really big fan at 2 bar, really nice, so you get a nice fine atomization. If you wanted to drop the pressure down, you can go right down to 1 bar, and you get a lot more material on there. You probably get a bigger build, less overspray, and that's probably an advantage, say when you're spraying inside the shop like this. So I did end up dropping that pressure down after putting that first coat on. Just using that little bit less material, getting more onto the panel. So you're not really, like on a job like this, it's not really an issue if there is a bit of orange peel in there. You kind of want it. You want that build. You want something to block into the next day. As far as this job goes, I only ended up putting 3 coats on it. The repairs were actually quite good. So horses for courses, if you run your hand over that repair, or you get your first coat on it and you're like, oh, it's a little bit ripply, you know, I might put an extra coat over it. But you just sort of do that job by job. But I guess rule of thumb for teaching apprentices, because they don't have the experience that us tradesmen do, they won't really know just by looking at a job whether or not it needs another coat. I just say rule of thumb, 4 coats on cars, 3 coats on bumper bars. I think, and it usually works quite well if they stick to it. So yeah, I think one of my apprentices needs a little bit of guidance, and I sort of need to spend a bit more time with him. But when I'm so busy, it does, it sort of takes away from my day, and I'm busy in there painting all the time. I don't really have the time to spend with him on the prime ups and his prep work, but something that I'm conscious of, and I know I've got to get onto it. And it's going to be advantageous to me. The more they know, the easier my life's going to be in the future as well. So there we go. I decided to include a little bit of footage of the cleanup, and this is all I will do for an everyday clean. On a hot day, it's probably not a bad idea to pull the entire gun down, or at least just pull that fluid tip off and the needle out, get the air cap off. But this was a pretty cold day. The thinners ate that primer straight up, you know, and obviously it's the first use, so there's no real build up of gunk in there. I'd probably say with a primer gun, once a week you really should be pulling it apart, at least, you know, at least just pulling that fluid tip, air cap off, and giving them a bit of a soak, like not for too long, because you can sort of ruin your guns if you soak them for too long. And I think it's worth keeping your guns clean. On the topic of gun cleaning, if you do mention that I sent you to Spray Guns Direct, they'll actually throw in a bit of a gun cleaning kit. So it's a pretty basic gun cleaning kit, but a handy thing to have. So look, as a rehash and look over the entire review, I would really recommend this gun to a top-notch apprentice. If you're 3rd year, 4th year, and you really take pride in what you do, well then I would say this is a good gun to get, you know. It's going to prove to your tradesman and your boss that you're really taking your trade seriously and you want the best tools. I would recommend it for a tradesman, and I would not really recommend it for a DIY guy. I think the price is a bit above what I would personally be wanting to spend on a gun that I might only use a couple of times here and there, I'd say go for one of those ANI F150s or one of the air guns at AZ3s. I'm yet to use the ANI F150 for primer, but I did see my apprentice using it this afternoon. He was using the 1.7 and it seemed to be getting on quite nice. Before we finish up, I'd like to say a big thanks to Brad from Cartridges Galore. He saw a photo of mine on Instagram and noticed that I like my retro gaming, so he ended up sending out a couple of my childhood favorite video games. 007 GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64 was included. Now you've seen this video, get out there and paint some shit. Thanks for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.